Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Right here in the live studios in Hythe, England, southeast coast, just near the English Channel. We stay here with Radharaman, my dear old friend, who kindly provided me a room in his flat. And Abhay Das Brahmachari is here with us, taking care of us like you cannot believe. His cooking is turning out to be something extraordinary, extraordinarily delicious and healthy and spiritually uplifting. So Krishna is taking very good care of us, and we hope that you are all safe and well and happy as you can in a world that is turned upside down by this pandemic and leadership that has no idea how to stop it. Time marches on, cannot stop time, cannot change the laws of nature, and the more they try, the more their lives become more complicated. The more we sit together and hear the Caitanya-caritämrta, the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other major works of Srila Prabhupada, the happier we become, and time goes away, even so much so that we can't keep track of what day it is, how fast it's moving. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has glorified the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, which we've been reading now for some time, cover to cover. Reading the books out loud, cover to cover, is an extremely spiritually uplifting and powerful sadhana to make us eligible, purify our hearts, make us eligible to receive or to awaken our love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna and all of their eternal associates. So by associating with them, we can learn how to be pure devotees from wherever we are. So Bhaktisiddhanta's poetic glorification of the Caitanya-caritämrta goes like this. In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has returned to Jagannätha Puri from his southern tour, and he's meeting all the devotees and having loving exchanges with every one of them. We start on the 10th chapter of the Madhya-lila, beginning with text number 55. He has just now met Bhavananda Roy and his four. The fifth son is Ramananda Roy, and he is still on his way after renouncing his material duties as a governor of Madras, and he will soon arrive. Text 55. Appreciating Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's favor, Bhavananda Roy also said, "Along with my home, riches, servants, and 5 sons, I surrender myself at your lotus feet." Purport. This is the process of surrender. As Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Manasa Deha Geha Yo Kichumora Arpilun Tua Pade Nanda Kishore. When one surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord, he does so with everything in his possession, his house, his body, his mind, and whatever else he possesses. If there is any obstruction to this surrendering process, one should immediately give it up without attachment. If one can surrender with all his family members, there is no need to take sannyas. However, if the surrendering process is hampered by so-called family members, one should immediately give them up to complete the surrendering process. Text 56. This son, Vaninath, will remain at your lotus feet to always immediately attend to your orders and serve you. 57. My dear Lord, please consider me your relative. Do not hesitate to order whatever you desire at any time you desire it. Text 58. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Bhavananda Roy's offer, saying, "I accept without hesitation because you are not an outsider. Birth after birth, you have been my servant, along with your family members." 59. Sri Ramananda Roy is coming within 5 to 7 days. As soon as he arrives, my desires will be fulfilled. I take great pleasure in his company. Text 60. Saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Bhavananda Roy. The Lord then touched the heads of his sons with his lotus feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then sent Bhavananda Roy back to his home, and he kept only Vaninath Pattanayaka as his personal in his personal service. 62. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya then asked all the people to leave. Afterward, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for Kala Krishnadas, who had accompanied the Lord during his South Indian tour. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Bhattacharya, just consider the character of this man who went with me to South India. He left my company to associate with the Bhattaharis, but I rescued him from their company and brought him here. Now that I have brought him here, I am asking him to leave. Now he can go wherever he likes, for I am no longer responsible for him." Purport. Kala Krishnadas was influenced and allured by nomads or gypsies who enticed him with women. Maya is so strong that Kala Krishnadas left Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's company to join gypsy women. Even though a person may associate with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can be allured by Maya and leave the Lord's company due to his slight independence. Only one who is overwhelmed by Maya can be so unfortunate as to leave Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's company. Yet unless one is very conscientious, the influence of Maya can drag one away, even though he be the personal assistant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what to speak of others? The Bhattaharis used to increase their numbers by using women to allure outsiders. This is factual evidence showing that it is possible at any time to fall down from the Lord's association. One need only misuse his little independence. Once fallen and separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead's association, one becomes a candidate for suffering in the material world. Although rejected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kala Krishnadas was given another chance, as the following verses relate. Text 66. Hearing the Lord reject him, Kala Krishnadas began to cry. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not caring for him, immediately left to take his noon lunch. After this, the other devotees, headed by Nityananda Prabhu, Jagannatha, Mukunda, and Damodar, began to consider a certain plan. Purport. Even though a person is rejected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotees of the Lord do not reject him. Therefore, the Lord's devotees are more merciful than the Lord himself. Srila Narottam Das Thakur thus sings, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva, Nistara Payet Chekeba. One cannot be relieved from the material clutches without engaging in the service of pure devotees. The Lord himself may sometimes be very hard, but the devotees are always kind. Thus, Kala Krishnadas received the mercy of the 4 devotees mentioned above. Text 68. The Lord's 4 devotees considered, we want a person to go to Bengal just to inform Shachi Mata about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival at Jagannath Puri. After hearing news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival, devotees like Advaita and Srivas will certainly come to see him. Let us therefore send Krishnadas to Bengal. Saying this, they kept Krishnadas engaged in the service of the Lord and gave him assurance. Purport. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected him, Kala Krishnadas became very, very sorry and began to cry. Therefore the Lord's devotees took compassion upon him, gave him assurance, and encouraged him to continue to engage in the Lord's service. Text 71. The next day, all the devotees asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please give permission for a person to go to Bengal. Mother Shachi and all the devotees headed by Advaita Prabhu are all very unhappy due to not receiving news about your return from your South Indian tour. One person should go to Bengal and inform them about the auspicious news of your return to Jagannath Puri. Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, do whatever you decide. 74. In this way, Kala Krishnadas was sent to Bengal, and he was given sufficient quantities of Lord Jagannath's food remnants to distribute there. Text 75. Thus Kala Krishnadas went to Bengal, and he first went to Navadvip to see Mother Shachi. Upon reaching Mother Shachi, Kala Krishnadas first offered his obeisances and delivered the food remnants, Mahaprasadam. He then informed her of the good news that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had returned from his South Indian tour. 77. This good news gave much pleasure to Mother Shachi, as well as to all the devotees of Navadvip, headed by Srivas Thakur. 78. Hearing of Lord Chaitanya's return to Puri, everyone became very glad. Krishnadas next went to the house of Advaita Acharya. After paying him respectful obeisances, Krishnadas offered Mahaprasadam to Advaita Acharya. He then informed him of the news of Lord Chaitanya in complete detail. Text 80. When Advaita Acharya Goswami heard of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's return, he became very pleased. In his great ecstasy of love, he made a rumbling sound and danced and chanted for a long time. Text 81. Also hearing this auspicious news, Haridas Thakur became very pleased. So also did Vasudev Datta, Murari Gupta, and Shivananda Sen. Acharya Ratna, Vakreshwar Pandit, Acharya Nidhi, and Gadadhar Pandit were all very pleased to hear this news. Shriram Pandit, Damodar Pandit, Shriman Pandit, Vijay, and Sridhar were also very pleased to hear it. Raghava Pandit, Nandana Acharya, and all the devotees became very satisfied. How many can I describe? 85. Everyone was very pleased, and they all gathered together at the house of Advaita Acharya. All the devotees offered respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of Advaita Acharya, and in return, Advaita Acharya embraced them all. Advaita Acharya then held a festival that lasted for 2 or 3 days. Thereafter, they all made a firm decision to go to Jagannath Puri. Text 88. All the devotees met together at Navadvip and, with Mother Shachi's permission, departed for Niladri, Jagannath Puri. The inhabitants of Kulinagram, Satyaraj, Ramananda, and all the other devotees there came and joined Advaita Acharya. Mukunda, Narahari, Raghunandana, and all the others came from Kanda to Advaita Acharya's home to accompany him to Jagannath Puri. At that time, Paramananda Puri came from South India. Traveling along the banks of the Ganges, he ultimately reached the town of Nadia. At Navadvip, Paramananda Puri took his board and lodging at the house of Shachi Mata. She provided him with everything very respectfully. Text 93. While residing at the house of Shachi Mata, Paramananda Puri heard the news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's return to Jagannath Puri. He therefore decided to go there as soon as possible. Text 94. There was a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's named Dvija Kamalakanta, whom Paramananda Puri took with him to Jagannath Puri. Paramananda Puri very soon arrived at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's place. The Lord was very happy to see him. Text 96. In the great ecstasy of love, the Lord worshipped the lotus feet of Paramananda Puri, and in turn, Paramananda Puri embraced the Lord in great ecstasy. Text 97. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Please stay with me and thus show me favor, accepting the shelter of Jagannath Puri." Text 98. Paramananda Puri replied, "I also wish to stay with you. Therefore I have come from Bengal, Goda, to Jagannath Puri." Text 99. At Navadvip, Mother Shachi and all the other devotees were very glad to hear about your return from South India. They are all coming here to see you, but seeing that they were delayed, I came alone very quickly. Text 101. There was a solitary room at Kashi Mishra's house, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave it to Paramananda Puri. He also gave him a servant. Text 102. Swarup Damodar also arrived the next day. He was a very intimate friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, and he was an ocean of transcendental mellows. Purport. Swarupa is one of the names of a brahmachari in Shankaracharya's disciplic succession. In the Vedic discipline, there are 10 names for sannyasis, and it is customary for a brahmachari assisting a sannyasi of the designation tirtha or ashram to receive the title Swarup. Damodar Swarup was formerly a resident of Navadvip, and his name was Purushottam Acharya. When he went to Varanasi, he took sannyas from a sannyasi designated tirtha. Although he received the title Swarup in his brahmachari stage, he did not change his name when he took sannyas. Actually, as a sannyasi, he should have been called tirtha, but he chose to retain his original brahmachari title of Swarup. Text 103. When Swarup Damodar was residing at Navadvip under the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his name was Purushottam Acharya. After seeing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order, Purushottam Acharya became like a madman and immediately went to Varanasi to take sannyas. 105. At the conclusion of his sannyas, his spiritual master, Chaitanyananda Bharati, ordered him, read the Vedanta Sutra and teach it to all others. 106. Swarup Damodar was a great renunciant, as well as a greatly learned scholar. With heart and soul, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Text 107. He was very enthusiastic to worship Sri Krishna without disturbance, and therefore almost in madness he accepted the sannyas order. Text 108. Upon accepting sannyas, Purushottam Acharya followed the regulated principles by giving up his tuft of hair and sacred thread, but he did not accept the saffron-colored dress. Also, he did not accept a sannyasi title, but remained a Naishtika brahmachari. Purport. There are regulative principles governing the renounced order. One has to perform 8 kinds of shraddha. One must offer oblations to one's forefathers and perform the sacrifice of Biraja Homa. Then one must cut off the tuft of hair called a shika and also give up the sacred thread. These are preliminary processes in the acceptance of sannyas, and Swarup Damodar accepted all these. However, Purushottam Acharya did not accept the saffron color, a sannyasi, name, or a danda, and for this reason he retained his brahmachari name. Actually, Purushottam Acharya did not accept the sannyas order formally, but he renounced worldly life. He did not want to be disturbed by the formality of the sannyas order. He simply wanted to worship Lord Sri Krishna without disturbance. Therefore, with heart and soul, he took up the renounced order, but not the formalities accompanying it. Renunciation means not doing anything but serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. When one acts on this platform, Trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is both a sannyasi and a yogi. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 6.1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita karmapalam karyam karma karoti yaha sasanyasi chiyogi cha na niragnir na chakriyaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. Text 109. After taking permission from his sannyas guru, Swarup Damodar went to Nilachala and accepted the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then, all day and night, in ecstatic love of Krishna, he enjoyed transcendental mellows in the loving service of the Lord. Text 110. Swarup Damodar was the limit of all learned scholarship, but he did not exchange words with anyone. He simply remained in a solitary place, and no one could understand where he was. Text 111. Sri Swarup Damodar was the personification of ecstatic love, fully cognizant of the transcendental mellows in relationship with Krishna. He directly represented Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his second expansion. Text 112. If someone wrote a book or composed verses and songs and wanted to recite them before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar would first examine them and then correctly present them. Only then would Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agree to listen. 113. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was never pleased to hear books or verses opposed to the conclusive statements of devotional service. The Lord did not like hearing rasa bhasa, the overlapping of transcendental mellows. Purport. Bhaktisiddhanta Viruddha refers to that which is against the principle of unity in diversity, philosophically known as achintya bheda, simultaneous oneness and difference, whereas rasabhasa is something that may appear to be a transcendental mellow, but actually is not. Those who are pure Vaishnavas should avoid both these things opposed to devotional service. Practically speaking, these misconceptions are corollaries of the Mayavad philosophy. If one indulges in Mayavad philosophy, he gradually falls down from the platform of devotional service. By overlapping mellows, rasa bhasa, one eventually becomes a prakrita sahajya and takes everything to be very easy. One may also become a member of the Baula community and gradually become attracted to material activities. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore advised us to avoid Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha and Rasa Bhasa. In this way, the devotee can remain pure and free from fall downs. Everyone should try to remain aloof from Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha and Rasa Bhasa. Text 114. Therefore it was the practice of Swarup Damodar Goswami to examine all literatures to find out whether their conclusions were correct. Only then would he allow them to be heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that if something impedes the execution of devotional service, it should be understood to be impure. Pure devotees of the Lord do not accept impure principles. Impure devotees accept rasabhasa, or overlapping, contradictory mellows, and other principles opposed to the bhakti path. The followers of such impure principles are never accepted as pure devotees. There are many parties following the path of rasabhasa, and the followers are sometimes adored by ordinary men. Those who adopt the conclusions of rasabhasa and bhakti siddhanta viruddha are never accepted as devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Swarup Damodar Goswami never approved such followers as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, nor did he allow them even to meet the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 115. Sri Swarup Damodar used to read the poems of Vidyapati, Chandidas, and Jayadev Goswami's Sri Gita Govinda. He used to make Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happy by singing these songs. Swarup Damodar was an expert a musician. Swarup Damodar was as expert a musician as the Gandharvas. And in scriptural discussion, he was just like Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly gods. Therefore, it is to be concluded that there was no great personality quite like Swarup Damodar. Purport. Swarup Damodar Goswami was very expert in music as well as the Vedic scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to call him Damodar because of his expert singing and musical skills. The name Damodar was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and added to the name given by his sannyas guru. He was therefore known as Swarup Damodar, or Damodar Swarup. He compiled a book of music named Sangita Damodar. Text 117. Sri Swarup Damodar was very dear to Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu. He was the life and soul of all the devotees, headed by Srivas Thakur. Text 118. When Swarup Damodar came to Jagannath Puri, he fell flat before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering him obeisances and reciting a verse. O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation by making everything pure and blissful. Indeed, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service and glorifies conjugal love of God. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. What a verse. Purport. This important verse, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta Nataka 8:10, specifically describes the Lord's causeless mercy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most magnanimous personality of Godhead, distributes his causeless mercy in three ways to the conditioned soul. Every living entity is morose in the material world because he is always in want. He undergoes a great struggle for existence and tries to minimize his miserable condition by squeezing the utmost pleasure out of this world. But the living entity is never successful in his endeavor. While in a miserable condition, A person sometimes seeks the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but this is very difficult for materialistic people to obtain. However, when one becomes Krishna conscious, by the grace of the Lord, the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord expands, and in this way, a materialist may gain freedom from his miseries. Actually, his mind is cleansed by his transcendental connection with the lotus feet of the Lord. At such a time, one is enlightened by the loving service of the Lord. There are many different kinds of scriptures, and by reading them, one often becomes puzzled. But when one receives the mercy of the Lord, his confusion is mitigated. Not only are scriptural disparities resolved, but a kind of transcendental bliss is awakened, and in this way one is fully satisfied. The transcendental loving service of the Lord constantly engages the conditioned soul in serving the Lord's lotus feet. Through such fortunate engagement, one's transcendental love for Krishna is increased. One's position is thus completely purified, and one is filled with transcendental bliss, accompanied by the spirit soul's jubilation. Thus, the transcendental causeless mercy of Lord Krishna is manifested in the heart of the devotee. At such a time, material needs no longer exist. The lamentation that invariably accompanies material desires also vanishes. By the grace of the Lord, one is elevated to the transcendental position, and then the transcendental mellows of the spiritual world are manifested in him. One's devotional service then becomes firm, and one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service with great determination. All these combine to fully awaken the devotee's heart with love of Krishna. In the beginning, a conditioned soul is bereft of Krishna consciousness and is always morose in his material activities. Later, by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes inquisitive to know the absolute truth. In this way, one begins to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Next, by the Lord's grace, all misconceptions are vanquished, and the heart is cleansed of all material dirt. It is only then that the pleasure of transcendental bliss is awakened. By the Lord's mercy, one is completely convinced of the value of devotional service. When one can see the pastimes of the Lord everywhere, he is firmly situated in transcendental bliss. Such a devotee is relieved of all kinds of material desires, and he preaches the glories of the Lord all over the world. These Krishna conscious activities separate him from material activities and the desire for liberation. Because at every step, the devotee feels himself connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although such a devotee may sometimes be involved in household life, he is untouched by material existence due to his constant engagement in devotional service. Thus, everyone is advised to take shelter of devotional service to become happy and liberated. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's transcendental purports, his ecstasies, ki jai. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I have quite a few things to do tonight before we go tomorrow morning. We leave at 5 a.m. to drive to Hereford, and I have to go through a pre-op exam to determine my capabilities of tolerating anesthesia and surgery. Hare Krishna. Then we'll come back tomorrow, night, but I don't think it'll be early enough to do the reading. So we'll skip the reading tomorrow night, and I'll write a little note just to remind everybody that might not have heard the announcement just now, and I'll post it on the webpage. Okay, so anybody who has any reflections or points that struck their minds that they want to discuss, please be my guest. Yes, Abhaya Das Brahmachari has his hands raised.
I just really appreciated hearing about what happened with Kala Krishna Das. What happened with Kala Krishna Das and how I don't remember the 4 devotees, Lord Nityananda and 3 others, they took mercy on him, even though Lord Chaitanya rejected him. I thought it was special.
Yeah, what was the conclusion?
That he stayed engaged in devotional service.
What was the conclusion? That the devotees of the Lord are more merciful than the Lord. There's a purport in the Bhagavad Gita, 330 or 331. Shall we read this? Or maybe it's 29. Anyway, it's right around in there. Yes. It's 329. The last paragraph of the purport. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Moral of the story. Therefore, we as devotees should be merciful. It's inconceivable that we can become more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. That's inconceivable. But still, we should be merciful to others, everyone we meet. And somehow or other, say something or do something that will take them a little step forward at least in Krishna consciousness. Get them to say Hare Krishna, give them a book. If they're fortunate, or we're fortunate to meet someone who's eager to hear, who likes to hear, we can explain to them, as much as we can, according to our capacity, about Krishna consciousness. And in that way, we taste the bliss that is described in the last purport that we read, that wonderful purport of Prabhupada, in which he explains the effect of advancing in devotional life, the effect of surrendering ourselves to Krishna by surrendering ourselves to the devotees of Krishna, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially. Hare Krishna. We got something else? Okay, I think they're being very, very sensitive to me. They're very kind. The devotees are so kind. So, and I have to print out these things for the flat, and I have to do, I have to fill out some other forms for this appointment we have. Okay, what is it?
There's a question from Rati Manjari.
Hare Krishna, Rati.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. I have a question. Why did Lord Chaitanya give Sri Swarup Damodar the name Damodar?
Because he was a beautiful singer. And Damodar is a name that means beautiful singer.
And then there's a question from Vrajaloka Devidasi.
Oh, Vrajaloka, Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have a question about the purport of the 119th verse. What does it mean exactly, that statement, quote, scriptural disparities resolved, unquote, for a person who received the mercy of the Lord?
Because in the scriptures, as the Bhagavatam explains in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, when Shaunaka Rishi was asking Sutta Goswami to explain the essence of all Shastra, in that question he acknowledged that there are conclusions in the Shastras, in the various Shastras, that are apparently contradictory or they apparently disagree. But actually they don't. They just have to be understood properly and in proper context and how they complement one another. So when one achieves devotional service, he achieves the ability to resolve those kinds of apparent contradictions and explain them in a way that takes a person to pure devotional service without confusion. And that is the one of the symptoms of one who has received the mercy of the Lord. Hare Krishna. By the way, are you going to send that medicine? Hare Krishna.
Rati says, interesting. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to stop now because I do have quite a few things to do, and it's after 8 o'clock. And we have to get a good night rest tonight because we're going to be driving 4 hours there and then going to this thing and then 4 hours back. And it's going to be a long day for me because I haven't done that kind of driving in a very long time. So thank you very much, everyone. And please stay safe and well. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Prem Anandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. I'm sorry. See you day after tomorrow night. Today is Wednesday. See you Friday night. Hare Krishna. Same time, same station, same subject. And we'll go down the road and try to get ourselves under the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow night.